Hey there. Welcome to Lead Fearlessly, Strategies of Confident Women Leaders, the podcast that will empower you to unleash your inner strength and embrace leadership with confidence. I'm your host, Katie Winchenbach, and I'm excited to have you join us as we dive into the experiences of extraordinary women who've shattered glass ceilings and redefined success on their own terms. Get ready to be motivated, challenged, and equipped with the tools and strategies to lead fearlessly in your own life and career. Joining us today is Arika Pierce-Williams. Arika is a leadership coach, an attorney, an author, a speaker, and she is the founder of Piercing Strategies. Arika, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Katie. I'm excited for our conversation today.
So I'm just going to jump right in and have you tell our audience a little bit about your leadership journey and how you got to where you are now.
Okay, great. So I'll try not to make the answer too long, but essentially, I left college, came up to DC, worked on Capitol Hill, and then I went to law school. And law school was definitely one of the most challenging experiences. I was someone who was always very much a high achiever, ambitious. But law school definitely stretched me in ways that I had not experienced before. And it was an important part of my journey because frankly, I wanted to quit. But I learned how to be resilient and push through even when I was, in situations that were at times, uncomfortable. It helped me to get comfortable being uncomfortable and to go outside my comfort zones. And from there, I started my career. I didn't do traditional law. I worked for corporate companies, and I actually rose to people leadership very, very quickly. I held my first vice president position before I was 30. And I had to run teams and oversee people sometimes who had more experience than me, sometimes who were significantly older than me. So I just learned a lot along the way. So from there, I was someone that people always came to for advice. Arika, can you look at my resume? Arika, I'm thinking about, applying for this job or taking on this role. I just kind of became a go-to person for all things around career, just because my career had, really quickly taken off. And as a result of that, I decided to write my first book, which was just some advice to millennials who at that time were kind of in that mid to early career point. This was, 2018 or so. And after I wrote my book, people started asking to speak about careers and leadership. And I found that I actually really enjoyed doing that. And so fast forward, a couple of years later, I decided to leave my corporate career and start a leadership development firm where we now do coaching, we do leadership programs, all things really focused on how to grow and excel your career. We work primarily with companies. We're those firms that are brought in to lead those programs, but we also do some direct, one-on-one coaching and other development with individuals. And I really love it. I love the work that I do now, even though it's completely different than what I did before. But it also, I think, serves as a reminder of your career can take lots of twists and turns, and where you start does not have to be, where you end up. And so that's also something I think is really important as people think about their careers and their next steps.
And I think it's great that you brought that up because we're seeing that as a theme a little bit throughout these podcast interviews, that a lot of folks went in thinking they would end up doing one thing and realized, either that wasn't for them or just followed this kind of winding path to get to where they are now. And I think that flexibility is really, really important as you're advancing in your career.
Definitely. Because a lot of times, I see people that are afraid to go after that next role or do something different because they feel as though, well, if I do this, then it means that I have to, stay in this. Is this what I really want to do? And I'm more of a do experiments. If you don't like it, you can always leave. You can always change. I think it's what's next for your career needs to be the mantra as opposed to, feeling like you have to stay in the same role, same industry, same company, for years to come. Even me leaving corporate to step into entrepreneurship, that was not in the playbook, but I'm so glad that I did.
And one of the things I want to circle back to is you rising to people leadership and what that's like to lead teams where the people you're leading are maybe more experienced than you are. And that's a really interesting dynamic. How did you manage leading individuals that did have more experience and kind of building your confidence to get to that point?
So great question. So first of all, I will say this. I was very, very fortunate in the fact that I had a phenomenal boss for 8 years that really helped prepare me and, allowed me to be a people leader. Sometimes what I've seen is someone will be promoted into a position and their boss, is only sort of giving them title in terms of authority, but they're really still the one running the show. And I think that would have been really easy for her to do because she was, very well trusted. She had a lot of influence. She was the go-to person in our company, but she was very insistent on, Arika, this is your team. You will make the decisions about what will happen. If you need, to come to me for advice, counsel, that's fine. But I'm putting you in this position because I truly believe that you are a force multiplier. And that is a term I use quite a bit because sometimes when people are making the transition from individual leader or individual contributor to people leader, they are a little bit nervous about it because they feel as though, well, I don't have all of the expertise. How can I, lead people that are more experienced than me or have more, expertise in this area than I did? That is truly probably not why they are moving you into the people leadership position. Why most people are moved into people leadership is because they are force multipliers, meaning they can motivate people, they can engage people, they can get everyone going in the same direction. And that is actually what your most important role is as a people leader. And so I think leaving behind some of that, the need for technical expertise and understanding that as long as you have the right people in the right places, those are typically the best leaders and leaders who are really engaged with their team, that the team is clear on the goals, the strategy, where you're going. Again, it's that force multiplier. So I equate it to, essentially that's what a quarterback is for a football team. They are a force multiplier. But they have one specific role, on the field, but their role as far as the team, is to make sure that this team all stays aligned, that they are, working together, that they are, they're happy, right? They're enjoying the work, to make sure that people aren't working in pockets, not working in silos. So that's the job. And by me learning that really shifted how I went into, meetings, how I worked with my direct reports. Again, some who, had been at the company and been doing their job since, almost some of them before I was born, right? So it can be awkward. But I think when people start to see that, wow, she actually really knows what she's doing, because we're all in alignment. We're all, engaged. We're motivated. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Then that's, when you as a leader have confidence, I think, when you see your team, truly acting as a team.
I think that concept of the force multiplier is really cool. And I think it highlights really that there are different ways to be a leader. And it's not always about that, technical expertise or experience in a certain area. That's why you're brought in to be a leader. How did you develop your leadership style as that force multiplier and figure out how you wanted to show up as a leader?
So again, I think a lot of it, to be honest with you, was modeled after, the boss that I had at the time. One thing that when I sat back and watched her, what I saw was people trusted her. People liked her, right? And also she had a lot of influence. And I think a lot of times when people hear the word influence, they think, oh, that person's very savvy. They have great negotiation. They have, they can persuade people to go their way. But influence is really about when you trust someone, in a way that, where they're going, what they're saying, all of those things, you somewhat naturally just kind of fall in alignment with them. It's not about they're trying to push you in a way. And so I wanted to be the type of leader that it did not feel as though I was telling people what to do. I'm not an authoritarian. That's just not my personality by nature. But again, that people just really enjoy to be collaborative. But that said, I also wanted to be someone that everyone respected and not someone who, was walked over, especially because I did step into leadership at a fairly, younger, I should say, age in my career. So I also knew I had to make decisions. It couldn't be, well, let's just go and see what everybody says first and I'll come back and think about it. So it was trying to really walk that balance of someone who was respected, was trusted, was liked, but again, who people, understood though my role and I wasn't pushed over. So sometimes that, one thing I would say is, I had to have that confidence in myself and I had to always stay in control. So even the way I ran meetings, the way that I organized my time, the way that I presented, I spoke, I was always very deliberate in it and intentional. I think sometimes, we've probably all worked with people who were just kind of like scatterbrained and a mess. And I knew that, especially because of my age, there was not room for that to be the case. So it wasn't that I couldn't make mistakes, because everybody makes mistakes, but I knew if I was convening a meeting or showing up, we had a plan, we had an agenda, we had focus. All of those things were really important to me. Again, especially because I knew some people were doubting my position based upon, my gender, my age, and frankly, also just being a woman of color.
And I unfortunately don't think you're alone in that, where as younger women, and for you being a woman of color, walking into a room can be more challenging. And I think you at least feel like you really need to come in with a plan and prove what you can do. How did you build that confidence in yourself? Because you can tell from these stories you're sharing that it did take a lot of confidence to step into that people leadership role.
So I think, people, of course, will tell you, fake it till you make it. And there's probably a little bit of that. There certainly were situations where I felt very intimidated on the inside, but I knew on the outside that, I had to still show up, and at least kind of give the appearance of, I know what I'm doing, right? But, imposter syndrome is definitely real and I've experienced it. I still experience it at times in my career. However, I think getting a really strong network around you is really important, especially for your confidence. And so one of the things that I was very intentional about was building what I like to call a personal board of directors, right? So companies have board of directors. I had my own personal board of directors, and it was a mix of different types of people. And, some people are great to be your mentors. Some people are just advisors or, people you go to for guidance. Also, I'm a big believer in sponsors. So that's an elevated version of a mentor, someone who's, advocating for you actively when you're not in the room. But what having a great mix of people did was it allowed me to have a safe place to go, and to get, some feedback, some advice, some counsel, some direction. And so that when I was in those situations, in those rooms or in those meetings where, I was unsure, I could tap into some of the advice or some of the things that they had given, me or told me, about, their career journey or just how to handle certain situations. And that really, really helped me. And again, I think it was important that I had a wide mix of different types of people. Of course, I had my boss, as I've shared, she was definitely part of that board of directors. But I also had other people who were inside the companies I was working for, as well as outside the companies as well, that really allowed me to have a great mix of professional support.
And going back to law school, as someone who has been through law school, I understand your desire to maybe quit at points and the challenges that come along with being in that type of really high pressure, challenging environment. What did you learn from going through that? And how did that really help you become resilient on the other side?
I think in law school, I learned, wow, I can do this, right? I can get through this one day at a time. And, when I say I wanted to quit, I went to the dean of students maybe the third week of law school. And I literally said to her, I would like to, unenroll, disenroll, whatever the word is. And how much of my money, can I get back at this point, right? I've done 3 weeks. So I was very serious about quitting. This wasn't just, something I was saying in my head. And she was, thankfully she was, very adamant of this. You don't want to quit. You're not going to quit. You're just going to, take it one day at a time. And I think that mantra has really helped me again throughout all of my career, because at that moment I was like, I can't do this for 3 years, right? I am sinking. I am not sleeping. The readings, all of the case law, it's just too much. There's no way I can do this for 3 years, right? Because that's all I'm thinking about. And so she really shifted that mindset of don't look at it as 3 years, looking at it as what do you have to get done today? Right? What are your readings for today? And then what are they for? What do you have to do tomorrow? And really take it as every day you're getting better, right? Taking those baby steps. And so I think that has really served me again throughout all of my career of, not letting the overwhelm and just all of that anxiety and doubt and fear take over where it stifles you from finishing something or, allows you to, quit something that you want to complete. And so I think once I got on the other side and, I can recall sitting at graduation and really thinking like, I can't believe I did this. I finished law school. And I, still to this day when things are hard, I have to remind myself I can do hard things. Some law school was hard. I've done other harder things since then. I'm a new mother. That is hard now. But it's just a reminder of I can do hard things. And I think when you have those moments where you're doubting yourself, you just have to go back and think about other accomplishments, things that felt hard in the moment, and the fact that you did complete it. And that can really help you like, you know what? I got this. I can do this.
You've touched on a couple of things that have helped you along the way, but as you look back and you think, I went to law school, I did that, I was a people leader, I started my own company, I'm a mom, all of these challenging things that you overcome. What do you think are the strategies or the skills that were most critical for you as you made your way through your career?
I think that what really helped me was definitely reflection. I know that sounds like, okay, reflection, but I have one strategy that still serves me very, very, in a very positive way is, taking time once a week and capturing, my wins, things that are going really well, especially now in my own business that I'm running, because a lot of times we can be so focused on the gaps that we're not looking at the gains. And that comes from there's a book called The Gap and the Gains. So that's not my own term, but, that's something I think has been a great strategy for me is, what are my gains as opposed to what are the gaps or what are the things that aren't going well. I think also another great strategy for me, as I just shared, has been having a network that I have really nurtured, and not just when I'm looking for a job or when I need something, but truly having a network where professionally, how when someone leaves a job and they're like, let's keep in touch, and then no one keeps in touch, right? Like I am very adamant about that, sending a note, even if it's been years sometimes, staying connected on LinkedIn, staying visible. I think visibility is an important strategy, and especially for women. And I think, making sure that's, again, places like LinkedIn are a great opportunity for you to share what's going on with yourself. You never know whose feed you might pop up on that says, oh, I was wondering what Katie was up to. There's this opportunity, or there's this podcast I'd love to have her on. You just never know. So I think visibility has been a really important strategy for me. And I know some people shy away from, being visible and talking about themselves and what they're doing, but I think it's really, really important. And then the last one is, I will say, always making sure you're growing, you're learning. And so I am someone, I'm always reading something that's, around development and growth, or I'm taking some class, or I'm in some sort of, kind of type of program or whatever it may be, but never stop learning. When you stop learning, you stop leading. That comes from John Maxwell. And I'm always I want to be a better version of myself every single day. And my grandmother is 90, and she is constantly still learning, right? She's constantly still stretching and, continuously doing things. And even at 90, right? So I don't think it stops when you reach a certain place in your career, or when you reach a certain age, or when you make a certain amount of money that you're like, oh, I don't need anything. I don't need any other development or anything like that. But I think it's important to don't stop. Keep going as it relates to developing yourself.
One of the things that you said that really stood out to me, and I want to highlight, is that you mentioned that you're trying to be the best version of you. And I love that, because I think so often we get caught up in comparison with other people and how we're doing compared to other people. And I really think it's important that your focus has been, how can I be better than I was yesterday, as opposed to how can I be better than other people?
Absolutely. And, comparison theory, especially these days, right? It's really easy to compare yourself to others, or just look at someone and say, oh my goodness, what they're doing is so much better than what I'm doing. But, I think keep yourself focused on what's important to you, what success looks like for you, because it's different for everyone. And I think a lot of times, we can be down on ourselves, but that's where it's great to have a mantra. That's where it's great, again, to have that, list of things that are going well, those gains that you can make sure that you don't lose sight on. But, I think the only person that you want to compare yourself to is the person you were yesterday. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. And when you find yourself doing that, you got to catch yourself, you got to stop. Because it can take you down, a whole set of rabbit hole, right?
It is hard. And I think, like you said, with social media and even, things like LinkedIn, where you see people posting, it can be really hard to avoid that comparison. And I love that idea of having your gains written down, or when you get in that little bit of a spiral, that you can look, because that's kind of that imposter syndrome coming back up that I know you mentioned you struggle with, and I know I have too. And that's really challenging.
Yeah, no, it is. It really is. And that's where it's great to have, again, some people in your corner that are rooting you, that are reminding you how also amazing you are. I'm really lucky. I have a wonderful sister, that will always kind of help me get out of that mindset. But I think making sure you have some go-to resources, you have some go-to people, that can help you when those moments come. And I think it's also identifying when those moments come. And that's why I tell people, it's easy to look at even what I post on LinkedIn, or post on social media, and to say, oh, wow, looks like everything's going well. Because of course we're going to amplify, the positives, but I always tell people, yeah, of course I have, doubt. Of course, sometimes, I feel like I'm underwater, but I do a reset, right? I reset my mind. I refocus. I really, I have to get into a mode of what can I do today to make me feel better, or to create a new opportunity, or to create, something that I'm excited about. So I think it's just making sure you identify those moments and you you have some tricks in your bag, or strategies, I should say, to work through them.
And looking back, your younger self, either maybe in law school, maybe just starting out in your career, if you could give yourself one piece of advice as you're starting your journey, what would you want younger you to know?
Gosh, I don't know if we have enough time for for all of the things I would tell younger Arika. I would probably just, I would tell her to bet on yourself and believe in yourself. And especially, as a business owner now in my career, I bet on myself every single day. But also when I was younger in my career, I think I was looking for other people to validate, okay, you got this, you can do this, right? As opposed to believing in myself first. And I think once I was able to make that shift and really understand that I create my life, I create what I want, I create, what my career has looked like. I'm sure there's, other people that are involved, but when I really stepped into, I am the creator, and other people are co-creating with me, but I'm truly the creator of my life. That was really probably something that shifted. So if I could have told younger Arika to start doing that earlier, it is what it is, but that's something I think is important, especially for women, because I see a lot of women, especially in their careers, who feel stuck, and who feel as though they're doing a job perhaps that they know that they, they could be doing more. They perhaps, are not being promoted into roles that they know that they're qualified for. There's lots of things that may be happening that make them feel stuck. And I think it's, helping to shift out of that, okay, I'm stuck, there's nothing I can do, to start actually thinking about, well, what can I do? Or, who should I be talking to? Or where can I showcase these skills, or go talk about that I can do more, in different places. So I'm a big advocate of, owning your career. And I think the more, the earlier I could have realized that, I think the sooner I could have taken that ownership role.
And it's that mindset. Like you said, I love that it's a mindset shift. It's easier, I know, said than done, but it is really important to get yourself in that frame of mind of thinking positively and believing in yourself.
Yeah, it's absolutely, the mindset piece is so critical. We deliver a lot of leadership programs for companies. And a lot of times, of course, everybody wants to jump straight into, this is how you get feedback, or this is how you do a performance review. But it's like, let's back it up. Let's talk about the mindset of a leader, right? Especially a new leader. And let's make sure that we don't gloss over how important mindset is, and how you show up every single day at home, at work, everywhere you go. And I think that the more, we have that all of us have just that foundation of, who we are and who we want to be, it makes a huge difference. And so I do a lot of mindset work, again, especially as now a business owner. That's what allows me to get up every single day and keep trying, to grow my business, is because I have this mindset of, wow, this could be this, who knows what this company could turn into one day. And I think you have to have that same mindset, especially again in your career of, who knows, I could be the CEO of the company. I could be, if I want to. Everyone doesn't want to, but I think it's just being open to all of the possibilities.
And Arika, I think that's the perfect note to wrap up on. And thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your story and the tips that you have.
Oh, thank you so much, Katie. I love talking about this kind of stuff, and I hope it helps someone just maybe perhaps think about their career and their growth a little bit differently. So thanks so much for having me.
You can find Arika's book on our free downloadable book list and a link to her website, erikapierce.com, in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in to Lead Fearlessly, Strategies of Confident Women Leaders. If you've been inspired by today's episode, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a friend who could use a confidence boost. Remember to subscribe so you won't miss out when we drop our next season. And if you found our conversations valuable, please leave us a 5-star review. Your support helps us continue to amplify the voices of incredible women leaders and inspire more fearless female trailblazers.